Vice UK recently featured an article by journalist Joe Bish. And the article was about a little known figure on the alt-right named Sargon of Akkad. Now, why do I say figure on the alt-right? Why do I have to use such mushy language instead of just calling him a Nazi or just calling him alt-right, which is soft language in and of itself for the word Nazi? Okay. This is where shit gets complicated. Sargon of Akkad is a confederate of the alt-right movement. He is a quasi-liberal apologist who, the only analog that I could compare this to that a person from outside of the anti-truth hole on YouTube would understand is, you know how sometimes on Fox News they'll have a panel, but the panel is backloaded with like these blue dog corporate Democrats, or like these people who came to power like Dick Morris and other fat white dudes who were part of the Clinton consensus, the Democratic Leadership Council, when the Democratic Party went to the far right and never came back. Well, that's who Sargon of Akkad is. Sargon of Akkad is like that liberal that pops up on Fox News who hates liberals all the time. Is always like, oh man, Kristen Powers. Kristen Powers was another one who used to pop up on Fox News and was always like, liberals are left, liberals are left, liberals are left. And I'm not going to say that doesn't even exist on the other corporate news network, because there's a lot of people like Joy Reid during the primaries that all they did was talk about the left, the left, the left. They hate the left is tearing the left apart. We got liberals who hate the left on the left, and liberals who hate the left on the right, which is directly where Sargon of Akkad lands, no matter how much he claims otherwise, no matter how much he swears on his poor grandmother's broken eyes that he is not a right-winger. Sargon of Akkad is the cultural equivalent of Rush Limbaugh on YouTube. Now that's a tough coin to flip on YouTube, because these white liberal these right liberal bros like Sargon of Akkad and TJ Kirk and all this little like mafia of white skeptics who hate social justice advocates. They're all like angry fat white dudes. Paul's Ego is another loudmouth, angry big mouth white dude who hates feminazis, and it's very difficult to say who's the Rush Limbaugh. So we're gonna say that YouTube is full of a bunch of different Rush Limbaughs, and I guess Armored Skeptic is the Sean Hannity of that movement. Like he's too coiffed, the greasy hair, like he's too embellished, he's too shiny, the part in the hair is a little too square. So Sargon of Akkad lost his mind, lost his shit, because Joe Bish, a legitimate journalist, a legitimate cultural commentator in Vice UK, on his home terrain, embarrassed him and described Carl and his creepy Jack Skellington looking ally Paul Joseph Watson over at Prison Planet. They'll disavow each other. Listen, if you need to know anything about liberal alt-right apologists as opposed to the literal alt-right, you need to keep in mind that they'll constantly disavow that they're conservative. They'll constantly disavow that they are right-wing. And most of all, they will disavow each other when they do skew so far right-wing that they can't apologize for it. They'll just straight up go, well, I don't support that guy, until they do, while they still do. They'll use this talking point about nuance to do the sophistry thing and use inverted context to mutilate and bastardize words until nothing means anything anymore. It's like standard propaganda, Walter Lippmann shit. If you don't know Walter Lippmann was like a 1920s propagandist who gave birth to advertising language. It's disgusting. He founded a language of anti-truth that I've mentioned on this channel before, or at least articulated it, because he's not the first person to manipulate a language like that, but he certainly was the first person to codify it into sort of a book, like an instruction manual. Noam Chomsky references Lippmann all over the place in Manufacturing Consent. Go read that book. If you're going to talk about politics on YouTube, you have to have read at least 4 or 5 Noam Chomsky books. You have to have read The People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. What fascinates me about these fucking YouTube atheists and these skeptics, these left-wing, right-wingers, I know it's nuts, right? You have to say shit like that on YouTube, because that's how far the conversation has got out of hand. That's how many self-loathing right-wingers exist on this website. They have to say something that's obnoxious and confusing to people at large outside of this horrifying bubble. I have to say to them left right-wingers, because there are right-wingers that own their right-wingness, like Steven Crowder, like Alex Jones. I can't even tell what Alex Jones is anymore. He used the word classical liberal the other day. I think he's picking that up from that shitty Rubin report. But historically, fake liberals on the right have, socially liberal, fiscally conservative. They used to use the term libertarian, but I guess that went under. I think Glenn Beck took that term with him. I think the Tea Party has poisoned the well for the brand of conservatism and for the brand of when Ron Paul went down. I think that libertarianism as a brand lost its cachet. At the very least, Sargon of Akkad is symptomatic of a larger problem, which is the disintegration of the rhetorical spectrum on YouTube. I think that's our biggest problem right now, is that the intellectuals on YouTube are not blatantly conservative, or at least aren't owning their conservatism. So at least William F. Buckley, he disavowed the John Birch Society, but he still affirmed his conservativeness or his right-wing nature. You knew who he supported. We've got people like Thunderfoot, who are deeply anti-feminist, supporting Hillary Clinton. And this is the liberal apologetics community of the alt-right. This guy supporting Hillary Clinton. At least the amazing atheist T.J. Kirk bothered to give a backhanded endorsement to Trump, but even then, like after the election, he was like, "Oh, both of them, Sargon of Akkad and T.J. Kirk, disavowed their endorsement of Trump because they didn't give an affirmative endorsement, meaning that they didn't go, they damned, they use the term damned with faint praise." But what's funny about the inversion of language on YouTube is that no one damns anybody with faint praise around here. Everybody endorses people with faint damnation. That's what fucks my brain up, is watching people endorse right-wing politicians and get to keep their liberal card and get to keep their so-called progressive card, even though those fuckers have used this language, regressive leftists, to describe the people on the progressive movement. So again, that's another word inversion. That's more Orwell speak. All right, the YouTube skeptic alt-right apology community. You see how many bizarre qualifiers that a normal person wouldn't understand I have to put in order to explain who these people are? But keep in mind, I just want to put you in the proper space. Don't get it twisted. When we talk about Trump being elected by the internet, these guys were integral to the idea with their gross pretense, with Sargon of Akkad calling Trump Gracchus and using references to Roman history to refer to the alt-right and some people I think called Milo Nero. That might have been from Sargon. Sargon likes to hump social studies books and then give nicknames to people that he just kind of finds in the appendices in the back, just kind of Gracchus, Steve Brandon's a Marcus Aurelius. Go on and on. It's like this guy saw Elizabeth Taylor's Cleopatra too many times, and he just names fucking Romans. He points to Sarah Palin and says, "That's a Julius Caesar right there." The Tea Party was anti-intellectual. The alt-right, if you saw Richard Spencer in the viral video about him giving a Nazi salute in celebration of Donald Trump, you'll find that even the most progressive publications are covering Richard Spencer because he's supposedly a well-groomed and articulate Nazi, whereas the Tea Party were pickup truck driving, illiterate, chicken and waffle eating trailer park types. Look, the new white supremacy, as exemplified from the alt-right and from their advocates on the so-called left who are proposing that there's a new center left, which doesn't exist, that involves the right, are part of this movement that pushed Trump into power, this coalition of disenfranchised Bernie Sanders supporters being told online in their video game forums on 4chan and on YouTube post-Gamergate that it was possible to be a liberal intellectual and be pro-Trump. It was the sophistry of people like Sargon of Akkad, of T.J. Kirk, of Armored Skeptic, of Shoe on Head. You name these people, and every single one of them, we're left-leaning, we're liberal-leaning, and then you'll see tweets like Shoe on Head spitting out that she's been agreeing with the right wing on the issues in the last 4 or 5 years. Well, let me do a little bubble bursting for Shoe on Head. If you agree with the right wing on the issues, then you are right wing. You're not a left wing admirer of the right wing, you are right wing. Now, that's not an insult. I mean, I don't support the right wing, but I'm not insulting you by calling you what you are. I'm just pointing out the facts. To the skeptic community, I'm pointing out facts and words and data and all those things that they were supposed to use based on their branding, but now they become profoundly reactionary after Gamergate. And what's funny is we're talking about hurt feelings here. The people who scream about other people's hurt feelings hurting them, again, a little bit of anti-truth. Remember that language is not language on this website anymore. So the people who have hurt feelings about other people's hurt feelings, I'm serious, have their feelings hurt over feminist advocates trying to get inclusion for marginalized people in their movements. So when you talk to these fuckers, they have this Make America Great Again Tea Party rhetoric, which was, I was just minding my business. And then Atheism Plus tried to force progressivism, social progress, equal representation into my atheisms. That was the first offense that hurt these crybabies. That was the first schism between the so-called liberals who are, I'm for gay marriage. It doesn't matter that I'm an Islamophobe, I'm still a liberal. This is Bill Maher's fault. This is Sam Harris's fault, and especially, this is Christopher Hitchens' fault. Christopher Hitchens, who was a contrarian, ostensibly left-wing author, during the Bush administration, along with Dawkins and Sam Harris and Bill Maher, started to back the neocon agenda of committing a Holocaust in the Middle East and liberalizing the Middle East, whatever the fuck that means, because I guarantee you that Bush wasn't trying to get gay marriage passed and abortions for the Middle East. That wasn't what he was liberalizing the Middle East for. He was liberalizing the economics of the Middle East. But anyway, the devil's advocacy crossing into actual contract signing with the devil was started by Christopher Hitchens in terms of a bigoted intelligista defecting into the right wing but not owning their right wing politics. God forbid a intellectual has to admit that he is synonymous with an anti-intellectual movement. So Sargon reflects this Christopher Hitchens-ness, this kind of erudite bigotry presented, wrapped in the cloth of classical rhetoric. So if you are confounded by the idea that a bunch of people who voted for Bernie Sanders because he was to the left of Hillary Clinton during the primaries, the Democratic primaries in the United States, could then switch over to voting for Gary Johnson, could then switch over to voting for Donald Trump, or would abstain completely out of disgust, please remember that they were on YouTube watching videos by these fake Socratics. Remember, they were on Twitter and in 4chan memeing Pepes and participating in this pop culture misogyny shit. I swear to God, I have been confronted on people from this movement on Twitter who have blamed the female Ghostbusters movie for the election of Trump. We try to, their whole narrative is that we in the social justice community, feminists, gay rights activists, trans activists, you name anybody in the progressive movement, Black Lives Matters, is always trying to take something away from them, take their white liberalism away, take away the titties in their video games, take away their comic books from being just a bunch of white dudes. They put Trump in power to destroy the economy, destroy the Department of Education because their feelings were hurt. Who's triggered now? Happy Thanksgiving.